this pandemic has made being a working American a life or death work. And while there's a disproportionate impact on Black, Latino, and Asian Americans and Native Americans working class communities, white working class communities are being hit hard as well. Opioid deaths, for example, are up during the pandemic, another crisis that Trump continues to all but ignore. In the meantime, Trump and his friends have strong views about what the rest of America should do. Quote, cut unemployment benefits to force people to go back to their jobs, end of quote. Defund Social Security and eliminate Obamacare in the middle of a pandemic, end of quote. Reopen public schools without resources or guidance. Reopen Main Street business without protection for workers so corporations can continue to soar. This is their plan. Second, and similarly, the economic pain remains unrelenting for millions of working people of every race and background who aren't getting relief they need. Meanwhile, both are doing just fine, some better than ever. This divergence in fortunes is unique to any recession in recent memory. And the painful truth is, we just have a president who just doesn't see it. He doesn't feel it. He doesn't understand. He just doesn't care. He thinks if the stock market is up, then everything's fine. If his wealthy friends and donors are doing well, then everything's doing well. If corporations see their valuations rising, then they must be hiring. But the best economists know what I know. I've learned growing up in Scranton and Claymont, Delaware, up the road, places where folks aren't invested in the market like wealthy Americans. A measure of our economic success is the quality of life of the American people. And if your stock soars, families teeter on the brink of hunger and homelessness, and our president calls that success, what does that say about what he values? When you see the world in such a narrow prism, it's no wonder he doesn't see nearly 30 million Americans on unemployment. 1 in 6 small businesses that are closed right now. He doesn't understand what life is like for people walking by their boarded up shops. Educators afraid that doing their job, that job they love, will bring the virus home to the people they love. Or a parent searching for health insurance now that the furlough has turned into a layoff. It's no wonder he doesn't see the single mom forced to wait in a 3-hour food line. So for the first time in her life, so she can feed her family, because she's now part of the 1 in 6 households with children that don't have enough to eat. He wants us to believe that we're doing better, to keep it up and not notice that this remains the worst economic situation since the Great Depression. And our country faced a historic divergence in our way of life. Which gets me to my third and final point, and what the American people really need to understand. All the pain and suffering stems from President Trump's failure to lead, his sheer inability and unwillingness to bring people together. He likes to sign executive orders, actions for photo ops, but they're ill-conceived and could do more harm than good. He says protecting renters from eviction. That's what he's doing. But he's not giving them any support to pay the rent when it comes due. Millions of Americans will only be left with the terrible choice between eviction and living in the streets, or paying back rent they simply don't have, when there was an answer offered and rejected. He says he's continuing to provide enhanced unemployment insurance payments, but he cut the amount that everyone on it will receive, leaves them on the edge when it runs out in a few weeks or sooner. He should be doing his job of calling congressional leaders together immediately to get a deal and deliver real results for the American people. This is the first president in the middle of a crisis I've never seen has called Congress into the Oval Office. If I were president, that's what I'd do, and I'd get it done like previous presidents. Rentals, food, unemployment assistance, tens of millions struggling Americans, student loan relief, small business support, and aid to schools and state governments that are going bankrupt. And as long as this pandemic and the accompanying economic catastrophe persist, no one should have their water or power cut off because they can't afford to pay the bill. Bottom line, Mr. President, do your job. Get off your golf course and out of the sand bunker. Call the leaders together in the Oval Office. Sit with them and make a deal. Make a deal that delivers for working Americans and eases their anxiety and pain. In July, I laid out my Build Back Better plan for an economy that works for everyone. Over the next 3 weeks, I'll be laying out the sharp contrast my plan has with the President's non-plans. I'll be asking the American people 3 basic questions.